Alrighty, I just got back from the cinema and I recently seen Zach Cregger's Weapons. Zach Cregger is getting relatively known and mainstream in the popular media because he is directing these original horror movies that seem to come out as grand slams. Personally speaking, I do think it's quite hilarious. Someone pointed it out on Reddit that WB produced two of the biggest horror movies recently, which was two of the biggest original horror movies recently, which was Zach Cregger's Weapons and Sinners from Ryan Coogler, which is crazy to think about considering they produced that shit and now they got like 2 hits on their hands. Hopefully it continues from there. I'm all for quality movies. Oh fuck, I keep forgetting that you have 2 original horror movies from WB with Weapons and Sinners doing really well, and then Final Destination Bloodlines also like went over the charts as far as reception and money went, but that's like a legacy franchise. That's like a legacy horror franchise, but still I would say yeah, 3 for 3 for horror right now for WB. They have been killing it. But here's my spoiler review on Zach Cregger's Weapons. Most of this movie and the way I have to talk about it and the way it is structured is going to be 100% spoiler territory. If you care about spoilers, and I recommend you go see this movie first before jumping into this review, go see the film, come back and watch this review. If you don't care, stay for the ride, or if you've seen the movie already, stay for the ride. Let's begin. The synopsis of Zach Cregger's Weapons is that there's this classroom full of kids, and I believe it's like 18 of them, and 17 they go missing completely. And the dead of night, they make it a big deal, and of course it's a big deal, but it's a big deal that at 2:17 a.m. this is the time where all these kids get out of their bed, they roam outside, they do a Naruto run completely to an unknown destination, and everyone in the town is flabbergasted. They don't know what's going on. They don't know if there was an abduction of these kids or not, or if there was like some murderer in the town, or if there's someone that has done witchcraft and taken these kids away. Nobody knows what exactly is going on, and that is the entire mystery of the movie. And I believe it was good enough to compel me to figure, oh, what's happening? It had me like wide awake. What's going on? Why are all of these kids missing all of a sudden? As the story gradually goes on, you'll start to see 2 things. You'll start to see everything pieced together slowly and gradually. At one point they make a focus on the fact that there's this house randomly just like standing there, and every time someone goes into the house, and they have this with the perspective shift of the characters, because this story is not told in a linear format. Think of non-linear. Think of a story told like Pulp Fiction, where sometimes things are backwards, sometimes things go forward, and you slowly piece things together with the overall main plot with certain characters that are more important than others. And it's a move quality wise that I'm going to talk about later, because there's some things I liked and disliked about it, but the overall main premise of the film itself, where you're trying to wonder where do all these kids go and how they piece together the lore, is pretty fascinating. So as I said before, they make a big deal of this big house where people go inside of it and they go missing, and one by one you start to see some of these characters get plucked off when they go into the house, or something weird may happen, or you see someone standing in place in a catatonic state, and you're like, oh, why is this dude just standing there, or why is this kid just standing there, or why are these people doing these fucking horrific events? Like at one point in the story, you'll get a character that randomly attacks one of the female teachers that was there, that was governing over the classroom. And let's get into the first character that we have here that they switched to, I believe, and that was Justine, and that's played by Julia Gardner, and she was recently in Fantastic Four First Steps as the female Silver Surfer, Shala Ball. She in this movie, basically she is the fall guy, essentially, or fall girl rather, where she was the last person teaching these children. She has a bit of a backstory of being part of some tumultuous affairs, and they kind of highlight that with another character in here, where she does not have proper teacher to teacher conduct because she goes around sleeping with men who she finds to be satisfactory, and not realizing they may be married, she doesn't care. Essentially, she wants to get her nut off, and so does another character who happens to do that in this movie. But anyway, get their nut off. Okay, I'm sorry the way that came out. Oh shit. But anyway, she gets put to pasture because the townspeople, and you know how people have conspiracy theories and they have weird notions and whatnot about someone. If you were the last seen person or whatever, you are the suspect, and she's one of them, where they basically say, because you were the last one who's seen our children, maybe you're a witch. And then you have these people going and attacking her, harassing her, writing witch on her car, and you start to feel some sympathy for this character, because slowly over time you can see that she really didn't do anything wrong, and she wants to know the truth just as much as anyone else. So they start off her with her guilt and her plight and what she's going through and the various relationships that she has. And then you move to other characters. Again, I talked about this second half to Justine's story, and you have this cop that she's involved with the affair with, which is Paul Morgan. And I know he was played by the guy who did Solo, but I cannot pronounce his name, so I apologize. I just remember it's like the guy from Solo that was Han Solo, yet he had a mustache. So there, it's like he's just this sort of 70s looking cop, and he has his own issues. And then you notice this trend over time. You focus on these characters that are dealing with grief in their own personal way, whether they are more directly involved to the plot of the missing children or not. And for this cop in particular, he's less connected than someone like Justine is. He's once again going around cheating, fucking with Justine, and then you get to his story later on where he's trying to keep in good graces with the police commissioner, and then it's like, oh, you're going around and you're cheating on your wife, and she's the daughter of the police commissioner. That's not gonna go well for you, chief. But you can see he's a complete mess and in disarray. And then he meets this crackhead, this junkie, right, who is another character that you will focus on after this one, but I'm just gonna focus on Paul right now. He arrests him, and then he finds some needles in his pocket or whatever, or I think he prompts him and says, hey, is there anything that's gonna stick me? And the junkie's like, no, there's nothing in there. And then it does, and then Paul kind of does a little bit of police brutality on James the junkie, and he says, oh shit, I kind of lost control. So you can see what kind of person he is. I lost control. Please don't tell anybody about this. I wronged you. You wronged me by not telling me about this needle in your pocket. Don't tell anybody. The junkie agrees. They move on. Then I guess to keep this cohesive, because it's already like all over the place, but stick with me here because the movie does sort of lead to a proper resolution, which some people disagree with and say it has no thematic. But we move to the junkie, and he's just stealing stuff, right? He's stealing everything to make a quick buck, whether it's, I don't know, forks, spoons, any type of utensil that's in your goddamn kitchen right now. This junkie's like pawning it off as we speak, getting his hands on everything. And I believe this character, because with Paul, you can see him thrown into a blind rage and having his own problems, and also really not amounting to much at the end outside of part of a kill count. But with the junkie himself, he actually stumbles upon the house that we keep mentioning, which has all the kids inside of it. Eventually he loots that house, and then he sees that there's a mother and a father there, and they're not moving completely. They are just stood still. And he's like, oh my god, sorry. Then he opens the door and he robs them blind anyway. And then he goes into the basement and you find out, oh shit, this is the house where all the 17 missing children are stashed at. And they're just standing there staring at the wall, and you're thinking to yourself, like I was thinking to myself at this point, what in the fuck is going on? Why are they not moving? And well, I guess it makes sense that the junkie, he does not care. He just wants to get paid, because after he gets out of the house and he loots it, he says to himself, okay, I think he sees on a flyer on the news, it's like a $50,000 reward for the discovery of these missing kids. And all he wants is a fix. He wants his methamphetamines. He wants to get high. He wants his cocaine. That's all the fuck he cares about and what he wants. So he calls it in and he hopes that he will get paid, right? And if you remember the interaction with Paul, the interaction with them to Paul signified that if I see you again after getting pricked by the needle, if I see you here again though, I'll let you go. If I see you though, you're going to jail. Like it's going to be worse for you. I don't want to see you in this area anymore again. I think the junkie calls the police, and then they send Paul out, or Paul's in the area, and then he tells them, what the fuck did I tell you? I told you I don't want to see you here again. And you know, due to the junkie fix and not knowing what's going on, they have a chase. Eventually he stabs Paul in the face with the needles, right? And then there's one funny scene. This movie is kind of low-key funny, where the cop says, do you have AIDS? Do you have AIDS, asshole? Syphilis, whatever. And then he's like, no, not that I know of, right? James is the funnier character in the movie because he's just so aloof, and he's just going around, he's just stumbling on these bigger conspiracies by complete accident. That's why I was more invested into his story than Paul. But not like all the way. I wouldn't say he's like the most interesting character in here with the most pertinent meat on the shoulders. I would say that belongs to Alex, but we'll get to him later. Then the junkie says, oh, I'm gonna tell you everything. Please don't hurt me. I know where the kids are. The cop goes into the house, comes out. Junkie figures, I'm gonna get paid, but hopefully you don't take all of my money. You don't take my payday away, because that would be a crying shame, right? Paul goes in, comes back out. You can tell he's all controlled and shit. He pulls the junkie out, and then we move to the next character. And then you see things start to escalate, but the main attraction is this house that these kids are now at the bottom of. You go to the school principal. I'm not gonna, for the school principal, it's not much to say other than setting up for the exposition later. I guess I'll move to Archer real quick, and he's played by Josh Brolin, who plays Thanos. Yeah, this is the best order, because one of his children was missing from the entire events, and then you get these emotional scenes with him, and you can tell the route this character goes into is the distraught, broken, passionate, and just the overall devastated father that wishes he would have told his kids, I love you very much, and I wish I had the chance to do so more often than not, every singular day, because you are gone. And that is the one that I resonated with the most emotionally, because I could understand, you know, as a father missing like a child, not saying that I am a father, but you know, I guess you could call me a father of cats or dogs or whatever that went lost or missing. That's still devastating, right? Just anyone in general. It could be not only me being a dog dad or a cat dad, but someone actually going through horrific events like losing their biological children. It's going to affect you in a way you will never ever want that pain to surface, or even entertain the thought of something like that ever happening to your child. And I think that was well needed within the film. he's the one who is trying to uncover the conspiracy the most and like hot on the trails. And it's one funny part in here where you actually see a goddamn gun circling over Archer's house, and he's like, well, what the fuck is going on? But you can tell it's like a dream sequence. Like some of these dream sequences are just characters standing in certain places in particular, or seeing clown faces. That's where the majority of the scares are going to come in. Do I think they were effective as a little side divergence? Yes. I do think that the scares definitely got me. It's one where you see the clown makeup lady on the bed, and it's involving Archer trying to explain to his kid in a dream that, you know, are you here, or I'm sorry I lost you, or whatever. And then as soon as he gets close, you see this lady that looks like she's disfigured as shit in this clown makeup, and then it just cuts to this really hardcore lightning flash, and I'm like, oh my god. Like, I was watching the movie sometime at around 1 a.m. and that scared the fuck out of me when I was, it's like, oh shit. So Zach Cregger really knows how to do these subtle, intense build up and scares, or people standing in the dark. You see them just roaming around, just someone running to the camera like lightning quick, or you see someone who had their face like bashed up, which is the school principal. So Archer has an argument with Justine. You know, those two characters cross over, and eventually he tells her that, hey, this whole thing seems like it's been entirely weaponized. They take all these kids and they did something with them, and I don't know what's going on, but they went in a certain pattern, in a certain direction. They find the exact house, and before they go to it, I believe that, like, the gas station scene is the gas station scene next. I think it is. Fuck it, we'll just say it. So the gas station scene is when Justine and Archer are both together, and then it's so random because you don't know what the fuck's going on, but it keeps you on edge. It's a guy that runs towards them, and you could tell he's the guy from earlier. He's the principal, but his eyes are all bulging out and shit, like super crazy, and he's all like damaged and whatnot, and he's just running senselessly in the streets, and he's running towards Justine. And he tackles her, and he's trying to kill her, and Archer's trying to protect her. Eventually this culminates into a chase sequence, which is pretty good. And then the school principal's like killed, murdered, ran over by a car. His fucking head gets like torn off his body. Some hardcore gnarly stuff going on with this movie. And then you move to his perspective, or you see his perspective at least, where he has his sort of blame and guilt and doubt and what's affecting him. And then he's in his house with his partner, and this is where the big reveal happens, where you start to piece together. This is where I started to piece together that, oh shit, there's this old lady, and you see flashes of her in the film. She has like red hair. She looks like a clown almost at certain parts, right? You'll see this clown lady also in the woods as well. When James sees her, she runs away. It is clearly some sign of this mysterious figure, and whatever she is bringing to the table, it's all bad juju, and it ultimately ends up being that way because you find out that this woman has the ability or the power to do witchcraft and hypnotism. You see one of the characters that was actually one of the kids of the classroom that was not abducted, and his name is Alex, and he's mostly a big focal point of the movie. Alex is helping what is perceived to be his aunt, but this is actually a witch in wolf's clothing. And the witch, she wants these children in order to maintain her life force. First, she starts off with Alex's parents, and there's a harrowing scene in here where she takes control of them, and she essentially tells Alex, don't tell anyone anything, do not reveal anything about my location, anything. You're gonna follow what I say, what I do at all times, basically blackmail. And if he doesn't, then there's a scene where the father, because she is in control of his father and mother, he picks up a goddamn fork, the mother picks up a fork, and they just start jugging each other's like face with the forks over as a lesson to say, don't fuck with me or I'm gonna make your parents commit the ultimate sacrifice to the big farm in the sky. All right, like I was just like, oh my god, it's just such a really fucked up premise. But the kid, obviously he doesn't want his parents to commit Sudoku, so he has to listen to what the witch says at all times. And this is where things started to get a bit compelling to me. Like I felt it was compelling, but it was also where I felt a bit mixed, because I was like, are they gonna lean into something else? It keeps you guessing in a fundamental way. I was like, are they gonna lean into something else? Is this aliens? What is this conspiracy? And then you just find out that it's witchcraft. Although I wish the reveal of the witch and the ultimate plan was a bit stronger, because it's just simply like, another YouTuber pointed this out, by the way, but he said, and I agree with this point, he said, why exactly is she exposing herself to the world when she's trying to keep hidden? Because she knows she is dying. So what is the purpose of the witch going out in the open and making all this mockery and making a scene and going into people's houses and making them like kill each other or whatever? It's like, don't you want to keep low pro at all costs? And eventually, like, one part of her plan is she has to make Alex go out and get these things from the classroom to lure the kids in. I'm like, that's the smartest plan. Instead, though, it's like she goes in, she gets the principal to go after Justine, and I'm thinking to myself, like, what is the actual purpose of things like that? Why did the mother cut off the lock of hair from Justine and wanted to kill her? Or maybe there was something else pertinent going on that I just didn't understand. But yeah, it was a lot of exposure of the character to unnecessary degrees. And I guess, well, at least she got the mother to do it, so she didn't do it herself. But the most egregious one was when James was in the woods and he was seeing the witch and shit roaming around. It's like, why are you here? Like, you should be somewhere at the bottom of a cave trying to get these kids to come to your location and then suck the life force out of them, and you don't have to worry about them. So it feels like there was some flaws in the plan, or the plan was just not super explained well. And I kind of wish for another thing, like when she took some of the force of these kids, well, I guess maybe, yeah, when she did take some of the force of these kids, she was looking like a little bit younger. So she definitely was like sucking them out. And one of the things about the ending is that they said some of the kids remain catatonic, and there was a person that told me they hated this ending because it wasn't really explained well. But I am personally assuming that because she was siphoning force off of some of these kids, that's why some of them can't talk anymore. But I went well ahead, so I digress. But I'm telling you, this movie is absolutely fucking insane and bonkers, and I loved it for that. So, which character I was like, oh, and goddamn, dude, fuck, I forgot. Oh, the principal. Okay. She goes into the principal's house and they have this conversation. I guess this was a way of introducing her character, and they couldn't think of another way to keep her concealed and not put her out in the open, so they decided to do this, where she comes in, she says, you know, she talks to the principal, and then I guess maybe you could see it as she's trying to cover up tracks a little bit or keep more disarray so the children could be captured. You could see it that way, possibly, potentially. The witch is essentially still talking to the principal and the principal's lover, and she's square in the house or whatever. They start questioning things that she's saying, and then I believe at one point she gets tired of the conversation and she pulls out a branch and a lock of the principal's hair, I assume. She ties that bitch up and she snaps the twig, and she does this thing where she snaps a twig, rings a bell. I don't know what order it goes into, but the principal is essentially under control, under this spell, under this curse, under this hypnotism. He tackles his partner and then he starts spitting out black blood on him. And there's like a giant red question mark as to what the hell is happening at this point. And I believe that's the whole intention of the scene itself. You're supposed to be wondering, oh yes, this is piecing together what may have happened to these children with the control of the body and everything. But at the same time, you're thinking to yourself, oh, it's witchcraft and that's it. Oh shit. Well, there was the illusion earlier in the film that they wrote witch on someone else's car, which is Justine, but she was not the witch. So it's kind of interesting how they played out the entire time, where it subverts expectations a lot. Even if you went in blind and you decided that the obvious was way too obvious, you still would be dead wrong at this point when it reaches this climax, right? Wong, which is, he's played by Benedict Wong, but I just remember him as Wong from the MCU. It's kind of funny that way. He starts headbutting his lover and smashing his head in, and then he runs out completely to go get Justine. And you see in the previous scene before with Justine, this guy comes out of nowhere, but you see how he was controlled. You see the inner machinations of what's going on. You see what the witch starts to want, which is she needs these kids to be, you know, corralled and put under control, and the only one helping her is Alex, getting all of these remnants of what's in the classroom and controlling them that way, whether it's I don't know, through their DNA or something, I don't know, but I would assume it is that way with the hair and everything. I'm not sure of the relevance of snatching all of the nameplates, the paper nameplates, and getting it through that way. I thought you would just need the hair, but I guess maybe it was concocted that way. You might get something off of that. I don't know. This witch was getting anything essentially and just snapping twigs and controlling people through any means necessary. All right. And honestly, at this point, it just felt like a sharp swerve of mystique in processing what is going on. Although I do think some of the reveal could have been a little bit more elaborated upon, explained upon. How long would it take for the witch to siphon out all of the children, maybe putting more of an immense danger on what will happen even after Alex has helped the witch, because what is she gonna do to him, right? Is she gonna kill him or let him go? I do think that further explanation with the witchcraft and what they were setting up could have worked for the film, and the film is like, you know, 2 hours or something flat, but maybe an extra 15 more minutes, a few more scenes of exposition and fleshing out this relationship between Alex and the witch, and showing more of her, because she was definitely a downright stone cold bitch in the movie, but just showing more of that and fleshing them out could have sufficed. It could have been a little bit more stronger, and Alex is essentially one of the main characters of the entire movie. He is the one where it comes to a resolution, so to speak, and you might be thinking to yourself, and I was thinking this to myself, despite the idea of witchcraft having intrigue in this movie, I wish we could have spent more time with this character and his plight, you know, and showing that, yeah, there's a reason why he didn't tell the police shit, and getting more of what he felt about his classmates in the midst of everything. Maybe going down to the cellar and having a moment, having a cry, would have put a little bit more emotional weight than expected. But I understand he feels quiet, hollow, and numb because his parents' lives are on the line, in a sense. So you see this character and you get that he's being manipulated at the end. It all culminates with Justine and Archer going to the witch's house and discovering everything there, you know, the kids in the basement. I believe that mind control Paul Morgan and a mind control James are also in the house, and they attack everything, and just shit starts to like culminate and go off completely during this point in the movie. And you see, it was one wild scene where Justine, like, she takes the gun of the cop and shoots him in the throat, and he's still snarling, he's still going, and then she shoots him in the head. At that point, the movie tells you, oh, headshots are the way to get rid of these people who have this Terminator-like hypnotism. They feel no pain, they still come after you. And then Alex uses the same ritual where he takes a lock of the witch's hair, and this leads to the ending, which I've seen people hate this ending, and I kind of get some of the ire, but I also rather like this, where he takes the lock of her hair and he does a reverse Uno card and says, fuck you, snaps the twig, and all the kids from the basement just start charging at the witch non-stop. And it's a crazy long extended chase sequence. It lasted for like almost 5 or 6 minutes, because maybe a little bit shorter, but it lasts for what I think is a while before they catch her ass. And you see some crazy visual work and some crazy stunts that they do, which is absurd. That's the only way I can explain it, because they are chasing this lady through people's houses. I heard someone say this scene felt funny to them. I guess maybe you can glean comedy from this, maybe you can glean something from this. I just saw them as it's a chase scene and they're chasing this motherfucker down. These kids are jumping through walls. Again, they feel no pain. If you are under this hypnotism, you feel no pain. They are jumping through walls, they are jumping through windows, they are going through screen doors. These small miniature children, it's like they don't care, they feel nothing. All right, they're football tackling through everything. They are chasing this bitch to the end of the earth, and they capture her and they force her to the grassy knoll, and they start ripping her apart. They rip off her arms, her legs. It reminds me of that scene in fucking Seed of Chucky where Glenn is just cutting off Chucky's limbs one by one. And that's what they're doing, but they ain't using no hatchet tools or nothing. They're using their bare freaking hands. They're pulling this witch's head off her jaw, and it's such a satisfying villain death. It really is. Like, she got what she had coming, and it's really satisfying that they get her in the end and they just kill her hardcore. It's like so rewarding. Once the witch dies, the curse wears off and everything starts to turn back to normal, but it kind of ends on a little bit of a bleak moment. Archer gets his kid back, and you know, you see some of the resolutions there, and I do think they could have had a little bit more of a resolution for Justine. It's like at the end, you know, she's basically one of the sole female adult survivors in this situation, and they don't have anything compound for her at the end. And I thought Julia Gardner's character was great in this, but it does feel like she kind of, her character arc ends on a meh note. But then again, I don't know if they're gonna have sequels after this or not. I know Zach Cregger is very open to the possibility of a continuation, and there's the talks of a prequel, but personally I digress. It just felt like they didn't have nothing really for her. You know, they had more for Archer getting his child back and everything. Maybe they could have had her do a speech or something at the end. It's just these little wants and stuff, but it's definitely not a bad movie. And I did like the ending. People thought that it ended way too sour, that they didn't explain enough, but again, I thought they explained just the right amount. You do feel bad for Alex, where you don't know if his parents are going to be fixed or not, and they take him away from his parents to focus on his aunt, but they don't know what's going on with these people in this catatonic state. I think it's best because some of them are still affected by it. Some have went to normal and others have not, and I believe his parents probably are the ones who have not, because they've been under it for such a long amount of time, which is what I assume is the problem. A long amount of time and having the life force sucked probably contributed to some of them getting fucked. And that rhymed, but it was totally unintentional. And I just love that it kind of ended on a somewhat happy note for certain people and a somewhat dour note, and I believe dourness and some sort of darkness, and leaving it open to that interpretation and mindset is a good way to end a horror film, at least in my opinion. You know, some people just want happy endings. A lot I like the fucked up stuff. I'm just one of those people. I like the messed up parts with it. Yeah, so weapons, ultimately, what do I think of it as a final summary? Because I've been going on for a while now with the review. Very captivating mystery horror. It has a few things that definitely could have been way more explained, or some of the supernatural elements could have been done, I want to say, in a more complex way. But what is here, and the way they tell the story and how they weave through each of the characters and how they set the mystery right there as plain as day, and it's like, oh yeah, that house is part of the problem, or oh yeah, these kids are down here, someone's gonna find out, and then they come back and it seems like they're mind controlled. I'm like wondering what the hell is going on. It keeps you teetering on edge right until the reveal, even though I think the reveal could have been a bit more fleshed out with the witch's plan. But overall, I did like the witchcraft stuff that they were offering, because it was part of the entire suspense and the mystery that they hid for a long ass time until they finally showed that. I like the witch too, personally. Again, you just have that like super over animated character that you want to die to the power of 1,000 suns, and she embodied that wholeheartedly. It's just, I wish her plan was a bit more fleshed out, and I wish that there was a bit more of some somber moments with Alex outside of just the stuff with the parents. Like, you could say that, yeah, these are my friends that are being taken control of, and I'm surprised they didn't toy with an emotional moment there with him and the kids. Like, let's say hypothetically, oh Sarah, you're down here, or someone who he cares about down there as well. Not only his parents are going through all this bullshit, but she's going through that as well. Hypothetically, that would have been an interesting thing they could have added, and it would have made me feel sadder for that character. If this movie was ever like, there was like a director's cut, or if it was longer, I would totally be all for that. I would totally be for that 100%. But what is here was definitely something that kept me thinking all the way to the end of the movie. The gore is great. The characterizations that you run into are fantastic, in my opinion, because it's told in such a non-linear format, which I didn't have a problem with. You do get a feeling that there are some characters that are clearly a lot more important than others, and you start to feel that, like, oh, what did James amount to outside of being a mind control henchman, or what did Paul amount to outside of just cheating on his wife and becoming mind controlled and eventually shot in the head and killed, right? You know, I get that you need your sort of victims in the crossfire, and that's what a lot of these people were, and this is what weapons conveyed. But there are clearly some non-linear stories that are stronger than others. I would say personally, Archer strong, Justine strong, except her ending, I would say her characterization was a bit more stronger, for sure, but her ending could have had a little bit more to it. Alex was great. It's just Paul and the principal and James were like, they were basically meat to the grinder almost for this plot, even though they had their moments, and even though I would say James stumbled upon the kids, which was important to the plot. But yeah, some of the others and just everything he was doing, like looting people's shit to lead to that, it wasn't as strong as some others. And I believe it's fair to say you're going to feel this way, you're going to say the same thing, as opposed to saying something where, oh, every character feels like a strong piece to the puzzle almost. Every character has their emotional moment, and it's just not really that when it came to telling this story and the heart of this story. And there were so many people talking about weapons, you know, it doesn't really have a clear theme, which I think is fair. compared to Barbarian or compared to Sinners or something like that. And the director said itself that it's up to your interpretation is one of those. Remember, directors told us for the video game side of things, directors told us that Silent Hill 2 was up to our interpretation with some of the endings, and which one was canon was left to the player's choice. With this, what is the theme of weapons overall? I think the theme of weapons is it's kind of apt that the movie puts it like this, but it is the lack of control, the weaponization of taking over someone's free will, and having these kids be susceptible to being victims. It's a lot of guilt in this story. It's a lot of generational trauma in this story, and sort of the practice and the labeling of others as well, and sort of how townspeople react, and maybe some of these ways they react is clear in plain sight, and where to others they actually want to do something and give a shit, and where to others there are people that do things in a wrong way, and that commentary permeates throughout, as well as your traditional stuff of witchcraft and having just surreal moments. I do believe that there is elements of that within the film, and it clearly shows itself. It rears its head. And do I think it's kind of compelling? Yes, I do. I like this movie. It's not a masterpiece film, I would say, because a lot of people, you have your own reviews and whatnot. You have your own reviews. You might give something a 9. I might give something a 6. I might give something a 10. You might give something a 4. It's all up and down with reviews. Now, I don't think it's a masterpiece level as critics are saying, but I do think it's pretty damn good. I would give this a solid 8 out of 10, honestly, after seeing this movie. I have my gripes for sure, but I enjoyed it a lot more than I hated it. And I just wish I had more meat on the bones for certain things, but that's for sequels. That's for this rumored Weapons prequel. Overall, this is a damn good premise, and I hope they do it again, or they explore more of this universe, because I'm very fascinated to see where they go next, or if there's been so many other kids that fell to the susceptible nature of Gladys's control, and I want to probably see that, or maybe there's other people out there like her, other witches out there like her, or maybe warlocks out there like her. They could keep us guessing till the very end to see what's going down, but I know it would be a bit harder, because again, it's something you would expect for a sequel, but I would love that to be amplified to 11 and have higher emotional trauma convey itself, because that is the whole ideal of Weapons, this generational trauma that so many people are going through, and this current trauma of your child being missing, which is a very, very real fear, and it's a legit one at that. This is my long yapping session of Weapons done. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I really enjoyed talking about this film. Definitely I want to check out more of Zach Cregger. If the quality is maintained to this nature, I have no problems with him doing Resident Evil. There was someone in my comment section saying, oh, well, Zach Cregger is not using original characters. Why would they even call it Resident Evil? It's like taking Mario out of Super Mario Brothers, or taking Sonic out of Sonic the Hedgehog. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's not, because Resident Evil has always had multiple characters. That is not just one person always in the front of the franchise. Like, let's say if you tried to call Chris Redfield the main character, fucking there's games where Chris is not even in it, right? It's stories where Chris is not even involved in the plot. You can't say it's the same as Sonic or Mario or Max Payne, the removal of the titular main title character, because it's not the same. Resident Evil is multiple characters, multiple legacy characters, multiple new characters, multiple new scenarios. It's not the same. Again, if Resident Evil revolved just around Chris and Jill in every singular game and there was no new characters outside of just new side characters, then I would agree with you, but I can't agree with you here. Again, I do not find any issue with those characters not being in this movie. Deliver me something new, something I haven't seen before within the lore, and I think I will be totally fine. Just a small rant about that in my last video about Zach Cregger's Resident Evil. People are saying that. I'm like, that's not even inherently the same thing. I don't get that. I don't understand that. I can't. I'm not mad at the guy for making that assessment because he wasn't disrespectful about it. I don't mind if there is like just that discourse in my comment section, you know. I hate assholes, but if it's just someone saying something normally and having that opinion, that's fine. But I just disagree with his standpoint, and I can do that in a respectful sort of way as well. And I can also disagree with people if they're big assholes, and I'll be disrespectful. But that's neither here nor there. That's just something I wanted to point it out at the end of this video. Until then, this is Renegade Operative signing out. Oh, there's one comment that someone said about weapons. There is a significance to 2:17 a.m. that there's 2 people left in class and 17 missing. Okay, okay. I thought it was just Alex missing. Yeah, I thought so. The director said the movie had The Shining as an influence, and 2:17 is a door specifically in the book that has significance to the story. Okay, so it's sort of a homage. I like that too. I think it has to do with the verse from the Bible, Matthew 2:17, which is Josh's son's name, Matthew. Oh, that I also did not know. I was looking in the comment section and seeing people talk about this. So if all of those crazy references are true, then goddamn, that's pretty damn good. I like that. I like that a lot. But yeah, and this movie, it is definitely scary. Go see it. Go take someone with you. Have a good time. Go see Weapons, and WB is like 3 for 3. Superman, Weapons, and goddamn Sinners. All of these movies I reviewed, and every one of them I liked. I have my problems with some of them, I do, but again, the pros outweighed the cons, and I liked all 3 of them. So comment below, let me know what you think, and I will see you guys next time. Laters.